Hello everyone, Caleb Simpson here from ZeldaDungeon.net, and you are watching our video boss guide for The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. This is the boss of the third dungeon of the game, the Lakebed Temple, and as soon as you enter this large underwater cylinder-shaped room, you want to put on your iron boots and slowly but surely sink all the way down to the sandy floor. Once you finally touch the ground, a cinema will take place, showing off a tentacle that is sticking out of the ground here in the center of the area. You'll see an eye that floats up inside it, and as with several enemies in these later Zelda games, and almost all the bosses in this particular game, the eye is obviously the weak spot. This boss is actually very reminiscent of the boss of the Water Temple from Ocarina of Time, Morpheel, who was an orb that traveled along tentacles made of magical water. After a moment, more tentacles will appear, along with the central mouth shape, which appears along with its title, the Twilight, Aquatic, Morpheel. As one might guess, it tries to grab you with its tentacles and pull you into its mouth, munching on you before spitting you out. If you stay pretty far back, you can avoid this attack entirely, but even if the tentacles do come after you, you simply want to smack them with your sword to make them retreat. To harm it, you want to Z-target the eye when it makes an appearance in one of the tentacles, and then try to use your claw shot. Once you successfully pull it to you, you want to slash it up with your sword, and there I actually managed to hit it twice. After harming it at least once, Morpheel will release bombfish, which come out of its mouth, and which will swim after you and try to explode. You want to deflect them with your shield, or you can smack them with your sword or claw shot if they come after you. Continue this same process to retrieve the eye and smack it with your sword, and after the third and final strike, it will initiate another cinema. Morpheel will suck in its tentacles and burst out of the ground, revealing its entire massive body. As it swims around the room, you'll see that it looks really intimidating, but don't worry, it's actually a piece of cake. You'll see that this movie, as it passes, you can see the eye is now on top of its body. Once you regain control of Link, you want to take off the iron boots and begin swimming towards it. Try to avoid its mouth because, as one might guess, it'll try to eat you. It has an attack where it kind of sucks you up and tries to chomp on you, so you want to avoid the entire front of its face because it'll suck you up. So try to stay to either side of its head and then start swimming up pretty high. Z-target the vulnerable eye, which is on top of the body, and then use your claw shot, hopefully latch onto it and bring yourself over to it. Swing your remote to stab the eye up to 4 times. Ouch. So occasionally Morpheel will bonk into the pillars which are scattered around the room, and then they will topple over, and so if you are too low they can actually fall down on top of you. You want to avoid this, obviously. And that's pretty much all there is to this battle. If you get hurt at all during this battle, you can actually snag some recovery hearts from the bushes or whatever that are scattered throughout the edges of this room, and as is common with most of the bosses in this game. So just continue smacking the eye whenever you can, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Now for this last chunk, I'm going to show you how to avoid this attack. When you're in front of it, it'll try and suck you up. There's 2 things you can do at this point. One is to simply put on your iron boots and sink out of the way, and the other is to start swimming in another direction really quickly by pressing A repeatedly. But as long as you're getting sucked up, you might as well use the momentum to propel yourself above Morpheel and latch onto its eye. This is a very clever way to use its own attack against it. After you smack the eye about 12 times, Morpheel will then rush around the room howling and bonking into pillars, apparently in its death screaming. Eventually it swims over to the bottom of the area and smashes into the side of the boss chamber, apparently killing it, creating a large crack in the wall, and all the water in the area then starts seeping out of it, which kind of makes you wonder, considering we're in super deep water and we're at the bottom of Lake Hylia, where is all this water going? Like, lower than Lake Hylia? Is it going into Lake Hylia itself? Wouldn't water be entering the area? Doesn't really make sense. Anyway, congratulations, that's how you defeat the boss of the Lakebed Temple. Next you'll see that Link is standing next to the dead body, where the eye pops out and bursts into the heart container. After that, the body itself will once again burst into Twilight, and it will reform into the fused shadow. This is the third and final piece, but it's technically the 4th piece in total, since Midna already started out with one. Midna will then appear and mention that this is the final piece of the fused shadow, which she will then excitedly take, unlike all the others. She asks you not to resent her because she really needs it, which will be explained a little more later on in the game. She goes on to say that you need to match the power of Zant, and that his current power is the false one, which she claims she will prove using this fused shadow. After that, she will create a warp portal and tell you to finish up. Now, as with most Zelda games, it's broken up into 2 parts, usually some sort of gathering of 3 or so quest items, followed by the rest of the game. Twilight Princess follows this formula in the form of the Fused Shadow, which we have now assembled. With that, we are going to progress onto the later half of the game, where things are going to get a little more interesting. Next, you want to pick up the heart container and admire the room and the music a bit more if you like, then follow Midna to the portal. If you neglect to get the heart container, it's easily found by sinking back down to the bottom of Lake Hylia, re-entering the temple as well as the boss chamber. Then you can then use Midna to teleport back out. That concludes the Lakebed Temple, and it also concludes this chapter. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys back in Lake Hylia.